At the beginning of this manhwa, we see a hospital scene. A patient is lying unconscious on a hospital bed when a flower suddenly falls onto his face, causing him to wake up. Breathing heavily, he wonders if he has somehow come back to life. He pulls the blanket off his body and realizes that he can no longer move his legs. Just then, a girl rushes over and hugs him, crying with relief that he is finally awake. She vows to find the driver responsible for his accident and make him pay. The MC then realizes that this happened 1 year ago when he was involved in a terrible car accident. Before that, he was the youngest billionaire, but after becoming disabled, he was reduced to an ordinary person who could barely do anything. With all his attention focused on treatment, his own brother, Pink Eye, took advantage of the situation and transferred all the family property into his own name. Soon a man named Taki appears. He tells the MC not to worry and says he has brought him something to eat, but the MC immediately recognizes him. Taki was the man who stole his opportunity and took control of his Sun International group. Worse, he's even threatening the MC's sister and forcing her to marry him. If she refuses, he will stop paying for the MC's treatment. Seeing this, the MC becomes furious and orders Taki to leave his sister alone. Taki mocks him, asking why he is barking like a dog, and then kisses his sister right in front of him. She desperately cries for her brother to save her. The MC can only watch in rage as Taki takes everything from him, his property, his company, and even his family. Then the story reveals something important. A game called Divine Path has recently been released and millions of people have started playing it. The game feels almost completely real, and its in-game currency can even be used in the real world. But its biggest secret is that increasing your character's attributes in the game also grants you the corresponding abilities in real life. The game is filled with extremely powerful players, making it a completely different world. Back to the MC, he realizes that Divine Path is his final chance to change his fate. He has already spent everything he had on improving his attributes in the game, because this may be his only opportunity to take back everything that was stolen from him. The scene then shifts to Taki. He confidently claims that the explosives around him cannot hurt him and challenges the MC to try. The MC presses the detonator, declaring that they will die together. A massive explosion follows, leaving half of the MC's body destroyed. But when the smoke clears, he's shocked to see that Taki is completely unharmed. Taki proudly reveals that the game has given him incredible attributes, making him so powerful that even an explosion like this cannot harm him. Then he steps on the MC's head and reveals the truth before killing him. He was responsible for the MC's parents' deaths and had arranged everything from the beginning. Worst of all, he mocks the MC by saying that the final bloodline of the Sun family will eventually carry his surname. But then the MC suddenly wakes up in the present day and realizes that he has been reincarnated. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He immediately decides that this time he will protect his sister, reclaim everything his parents left behind, and completely destroy Taki. However, there is still one major problem: his disability. He has no functioning legs, so he wonders how can he possibly fight back. Then he remembers Divine Path. The game is about to be released, and the public won't discover its attribute-boosting ability until a month later. That 1 month is his chance to get ahead of everyone else. Even better, the money in his bank account has not yet fallen into Taki's hands. Seeing the MC looking troubled, his sister asks if he is in pain and offers to call a doctor. Just as she turns to leave, he grabs her hand and tells her to wait because he needs to ask her for something. She asks what he wants. The MC tells her to buy him a gaming pod for Divine Path. His sister is surprised that he suddenly wants a gaming pod. Before she can say much more, Taki walks in and asks how long the MC has been playing games. His sister immediately reminds him that he has only just arrived. Taki then questions why the MC would waste his time playing games when there is a company to manage. The MC simply thinks to himself, this bastard always shows up at the worst possible moment. He casually explains that he was bored, so he thought he might as well play a game. Taki gives him a sinister smile and reveals that he has heard about Divine Path. The game has only just been released and there are only 100 gaming pods. Kwang's sister worries that the gaming pod will cost far too much, especially since the price is around 300 million. But Kwang reveals that he still has plenty of company money, and says he doesn't care if the price reaches 30 billion. He needs one. His sister tries to stop him, but Taki quickly agrees to buy it for him. While smiling on the outside, Taki secretly thinks that Kwang should enjoy the game while he takes complete control of the company. He even tells Kwang not to worry about the business because he and Kwang's sisters will handle everything. When Taki reaches for Kwang's sister, Kwang immediately pulls her to his side and says she will stay with him today because he wants to spend some time with her. Inside, Kwang is furious that Taki would dare put his dirty hands on his sister. Taki pretends to accept it and leaves. Once outside, Taki reveals his true anger. He can't believe the killer failed to finish Kwang. He curses the man for being useless and decides that next time he'll have Kwang killed with a truck. Meanwhile, Kwang tells Tong to transfer all the money to him. He plans to invest everything into Divine Path and tells Tong not to ask why. He also orders him to sell all of the company's stocks. His sister is shocked and asks if he's lost his mind because he's still sick. Kwang calmly tells her that he's not sick. He's simply preparing to make one massive gamble. 3 hours later, the gaming pod finally arrives. It costs 500 million, but Kwang doesn't hesitate. He enters the pod and starts Divine Path. The moment the game activates, he is transported into another world. As soon as he lands, Kwang is overwhelmed with excitement because he can finally move again. His legs feel completely real. For the first time since his accident, he can walk freely. The game then asks him to choose a character name. He enters Chaoji Bang. Next comes the class selection. He sees several choices: warrior, mage, ranger, assassin, priest, knight, and summoner. Since he's already familiar with the ranger class from his previous life, he chooses ranger. As a VIP user, Kwang immediately receives a special reward, the elf bloodline. It increases his strength, accuracy, critical rate, and evasion by 10%, while boosting his movement speed by 15%. He also receives a special VIP skill called Book Reward, which allows him to discover an opponent's weaknesses. Kwang recognizes the ability and remembers that he had already mastered it in his previous life. Then another notification appears. Kwang is informed that he's one of the game's first global VIP players, so he receives another special chest. This surprises him because he never received this chest in his previous life. He immediately realizes that it must contain an extremely rare ability. But when he tries to open it, a notification appears demanding he purchase 50 million gold coins. Kwang doesn't hesitate. He knows that if he keeps his money instead of investing it into the game, Taki will eventually take everything from him anyway. So he spends the money and recharges his account. The game then explains that every player's talent and ability are randomly generated, meaning each player receives something different. Players who enter the game early are rumored to have a much higher chance of receiving rare abilities. In Kwang's previous life, his special ability was additional bleeding damage, which helped him greatly. But this time, after spending so much money, he desperately hopes for something even rarer. When he checks his new ability, Kwang is stunned. His talent is called Evolve Everything. This ability allows him to evolve almost anything. Kwang immediately opens its details and discovers its two effects. The first is passive evolution, which gives him 100% chance to evolve any dropped item. The second is autonomous evolution, which allows him to evolve skills, tools, gems, and other objects by dropping them into the system, with items up to 2 levels being eligible for evolution. Kwang is thrilled. This ability could completely change the game. While everyone else is farming bronze and silver items, he plans to obtain gold items and evolve them into something even higher. Looking at the huge amount of money he has already invested, Kwang feels that spending it was absolutely worth it. Now he wants to hunt monsters, level up, and test his new power. But just before entering the game, he notices a major problem. Evolve Everything has a 24-hour cooldown. That means he can only use its first evolution once per day. Kwang realizes that wasting the ability could seriously hurt his progress, so he removes the skill and prepares to enter the game again. A portal opens in front of him. Kwang looks at it and declares that this is the moment he will finally change his fate. He steps through the portal and arrives at the beginner's village. But the moment he gets there, he's stunned. The village is already packed with players. Kwang can't believe it. He thought he would be the first person to enter the game, yet there are already countless players here. Some of them are even struggling to kill a single chicken, desperately chasing it around while shouting for it to stop. Two players overhear him and immediately realize that killing chickens actually gives EXP. They rush after the chickens as well, but Kwang just shakes his head. To him, farming chickens is nothing more than a waste of time. He needs to hunt stronger monsters, gain massive amounts of EXP, and level up quickly. Kwang heads in the opposite direction, knowing he has much more important things to do. His main goal is to kill a boss and claim its first kill reward. Soon he enters a dangerous area and receives a warning that he has entered the territory of wild monsters and should stay alert. Kwang isn't worried. That's exactly why he came here. But before fighting a boss, he knows he needs to prepare. He opens his inventory, only to find that he almost has nothing useful, just a newbie bow and some armor. Neither item is good enough to evolve. After thinking for a moment, Kwang realizes there is something else he can evolve. He activates Evolve Everything and targets himself. Evolve Elf Bloodline. The evolution begins, and after a short while, it succeeds. His elf bloodline receives a massive upgrade. His strength improves, his hit rate increases by 50%, his critical strike rate reaches 100%, his movement speed increases by 1000%, and life increases by 1000 points. On top of that, every third arrow he fires has a guaranteed critical hit. Kwang is extremely excited. He has successfully evolved his bloodline, and with this new power, ordinary monsters shouldn't be a problem for him anymore. Just then, he hears a sound nearby. Following it, he discovers a level 2 forest wolf. A group of players is already surrounding the monster, preparing to kill it so they can level up while keeping each other safe. Kwang watches them from behind a tree and admits that their strategy is actually smart. By forming a group, they can safely defeat the monster, although their EXP will be divided and their leveling speed will be much slower. Still, their chances of survival are much higher. However, Kwang soon notices their biggest weakness. They have almost no survival experience. Before long, a pack of wolves surrounds the entire group. The players are trapped from every direction, and the wolves suddenly attack. One player screams that the pain feels completely real. The group desperately calls for help, but their leader tells everyone to check their respawn points because they can simply revive after dying. One by one, the entire group is killed. That's when Kwang finally makes his move. He fires a single arrow at the forest wolf and kills it instantly. The first kill gives him several rewards, including wolf meat, which increases his regeneration ability. Kwang immediately realizes how important healing items will be when fighting alone. He spots more wolves nearby and decides to test his newly evolved abilities. He turns around and starts running. His movement speed instantly receives the 100% boost from his evolved bloodline, and Kwang begins moving at incredible speed. He then makes a powerful leap and lands on the other side. Kwang is amazed by the power of the Elf King bloodline. With a 100% speed boost, he can move incredibly fast, which is especially important for an archer. Thanks to this divine talent, he knows he will eventually become extremely powerful. But suddenly, Kwang reaches a dead end. He turns around and sees the wolves right behind him. Surprisingly, they don't immediately jump at him. Kwang wonders why they're hesitating while the wolves continue growling aggressively. Then a new notification appears. You have entered a buffalo zone. Kwang realizes that he has accidentally stepped into an even higher level area. Looking ahead, he sees the zone filled with countless powerful buffaloes. The wolves immediately turn around and retreat. Kwang remembers that buffaloes are level 5 monsters, so he knows this area is much more dangerous. Just then, a girl approaches him and asks if he'd like to join their team. She explains that they're forming a group to hunt the buffalo monsters and invited him because he arrived here first. But one of her teammates immediately objects. He points out that Kwang is only level 2 and clearly has no experience. Kwang gets annoyed by the comment and simply walks away, telling them to keep working hard while he heads somewhere else. One of the players thinks he's crazy, but Kwang explains that killing buffaloes won't help him much. He wants to move deeper into the area. The others warn him that the next zone is even more dangerous and entering it is extremely risky. Another player asks if Kwang even knows what the death penalty is. Kwang casually replies that he doesn't. He's just a low-level newbie who hasn't died yet. The player explains the consequences. First, all of his gold coins will be lost, along with his equipment. Then the pain of dying in the game will feel completely real, as if you were actually dying in real life. On top of that, half of the EXP he worked so hard to earn will be lost. Kwang thanks him for the warning, says goodbye, and continues forward anyway. The scene then shifts to a terrifying area covered with countless skulls. Kwang looks around and realizes that this must be the location of the strongest boss in the entire zone. Seeing all those skulls, he jokes that maybe he really came here just to die. He picks up a skull and throws it toward a nearby snake. The snake suddenly opens its eyes and rises. It's a giant snake. Kwang immediately activates Weakness Exposed. The skill reveals that the snake is level 10 and its weakness is located at the back of its neck. Kwang compares their stats. Normally, he's only level 2 with 210 HP, but thanks to the Elf King bloodline, he's gained an additional 1,000 HP. His total HP is now 1,310, while the giant snake only has 800. Seeing this, Kwang realizes he has nothing to fear. He summons his bow, prepares an attack, and fires at the snake. The giant snake also charges forward. Kwang confidently believes that his speed will let him win. But when his arrow hits, it only deals 29 damage. Kwang immediately realizes that his attack power is far too weak against this boss. This fight is going to be much harder than expected. The giant snake swings its tail at him, but Kwang easily dodges because of his incredible speed. He quickly fires another arrow at the snake's back. The snake manages to defend against the attack. Kwang realizes that it has figured out where its weakness is and is actively protecting it. Still, his Elf King blood is giving him a huge attack speed advantage. He grins and decides to see whether his speed can overcome the snake's defense. He keeps firing, but most of his arrows barely do anything, dealing 0 damage. Then one arrow lands as a critical hit, dealing 58 damage. Kwang smiles. The snake failed to block that attack, and his arrows are getting faster and faster. Enraged, the giant snake suddenly releases its poison. Kwang immediately realizes that he's standing in a poisonous area. A notification warns him that he's losing 10 HP every second. At this rate, Kwang calculates that he'll die in roughly 2.5 minutes. Worse, the giant snake is now trying to create distance between them. Kwang knows he has to finish the fight quickly. He smiles, draws another arrow, and confidently says that the snake has seriously underestimated him. He fires. The arrow strikes the back of the snake's neck, directly hitting its weakness. The giant snake collapses, and a notification confirms that the Elf King bloodline's Arrow of Life attack landed as a critical hit. Kwang explains that the critical hit combined with the boss's weak point caused his damage to effectively double. The giant snake's HP drops to 597. Kwang calmly concludes that 2 minutes is more than enough time to finish it. However, his own HP continues dropping by 10 points every second because of the poison. Kwang realizes the situation is getting troublesome. The moment the snake understood that his attacks were powerful enough to seriously hurt it, it started using its own attacks like a barrier, trying to block his arrows and prevent him from attacking its weak point. Kwang prepares another attack and confidently says the snake has overestimated its speed. He launches the attack and the arrow strikes the snake's belly, dealing a massive 200 critical hit damage. The giant snake's HP drops to just 370. Kwang is surprised by the damage. He wonders if the snake's belly is especially soft because its actual weakness is supposed to be the back of its neck, which is protected by its scales. After landing, Kwang immediately prepares another attack, planning to finish the snake quickly. But then he notices something strange. The giant snake seems to be laughing. Before Kwang can figure out why, the snake suddenly swings its tail at him. Kwang quickly retreats, but the attack destroys the surrounding rocks and sends him falling down. He realizes the snake wasn't simply trying to avoid his attacks, it deliberately attacked him to force him into a bad position. Then, the poison returns. A system notification warns him that his poison damage has increased to 20 HP per second. Kwang realizes the poison is making the fight much harder. Still, he expected the boss of a beginner area to give him some trouble. He takes out the wolf meat he obtained earlier and eats it. Thanks to its regeneration effect, his HP can now recover gradually. Kwang takes a huge leap and declares that the outcome of this battle will be decided within the next 20 seconds. He launches an arrow directly at the snake's eyes. The attack hits, and the giant snake crashes down before trying to escape. Kwang immediately fires another arrow at the back of its neck. The protective layer covering its weakness breaks apart. Seeing the opening, Kwang launches one final elf bloodline attack. The arrow pierces the giant snake's neck, and the boss finally dies. Multiple notifications appear at once. Kwang has defeated the giant snake, and his poison status has been removed. Then another system notification asks whether he wants to hide his ID. Kwang thinks about it for a moment. He's been hiding his skills for a long time, but now he sees no reason to keep hiding them. He selects No. The moment he does, every nearby player receives a notification announcing that someone has defeated the giant snake. The players are stunned. They've only just started playing, so how could a beginner defeat a giant snake alone? Meanwhile, another team mistakenly assumes that they were the ones who defeated it. They proudly discuss how strong their team must be and start imagining the high-value equipment and rewards they'll receive for killing a boss-level monster. But then, another system notification appears. Player Chao Ji Bang has successfully defeated the giant Snake King. He receives 1,000 reputation points and a silver chest. The players are completely shocked. How could someone be that powerful? Who exactly is Chao Ji Bang? The scene cuts back to Kwang. His level jumps from 2 to 7, giving him a 5-level increase in one go. Kwang is satisfied. Despite how difficult the fight was, the rewards are equally impressive. Looking at his new attributes, he realizes that this is the perfect start to his new life. As the giant Snake King's body begins to dissolve, its loot is revealed. Among the rewards is a special loot item capable of increasing the quality of another item. For example, if he has 10 silver coins, the item can turn them into 10 gold coins. Kwang is stunned by the discovery. He realizes that he can directly convert silver coins into gold coins. This is an extremely rare ability, and Kwang knows it could become one of his biggest advantages in Divine Path. Kwang is amazed when he realizes he could obtain 10 gold coins from a beginner area. That's an incredible amount, especially after seeing another team defeat a giant buffalo and receive only a single copper coin. This makes it clear just how valuable gold coins are at this stage of the game. Suddenly, a golden glow surrounds Kwang. He wonders if he has triggered a second evolution and becomes excited to see what he'll receive. A crystal coin appears in his hand. Kwang remembers hearing about this item in his previous life, although he had never actually seen one before. A system notification then confirms that all dropped items have been collected. Kwang opens his backpack and starts checking through his rewards. Some items aren't useful to him, so he considers throwing them away, but then realizes he could probably sell them for a decent number of coins. The next item catches his attention. It's a silver-level Azure Scale Armor. Normally, Azure Scale Armor doesn't have any attributes, but this one is different. It comes with bonus attributes and even has a special effect. The only problem is that Kwang needs to reach level 10 before he can equip it. Still, he sees this as good news. Once he reaches level 10 and equips his new equipment, his overall power will increase dramatically. Next, Kwang notices the silver chest he received for defeating the boss. He opens it, hoping for something valuable, and is stunned when he receives 7-star chain arrows. They're incredibly rare and practically legendary. Kwang is even more impressed when he sees the skill attached to them. It's extremely powerful, especially for an archer. However, there's one problem. The skill also requires level 10. Kwang realizes he needs to level up as quickly as possible. Just then, he hears a girl's voice nearby calling for help. He follows the sound and finds a girl hiding from the giant snake. She asks Kwang to help her escape. He checks her name through the system and sees that she's Lady Gu. Kwang remembers the rumors about her. She's known for giving hidden quests. Kwang tells her that he has already defeated the giant snake, so she can come out safely. Lady Gu explains that her leg is injured and asks Kwang to carry her outside. Kwang agrees and takes her out of the dangerous area. Once they're safe, Lady Gu thanks him and says that the next time they meet, she'll repay his kindness. Kwang simply says, "Next time?" Then he drops her. Lady Gu awkwardly explains that she doesn't have anything to pay him with right now, not even money. She jokingly suggests that she could offer her body instead. Kwang immediately gets angry and tells her to stop. He has no interest in that. Lady Gu laughs and pulls out an item called the Black Moon Blade, a bronze-level weapon. Kwang takes one look at it and throws it back, telling her that this is her last chance. He wants a hidden class. Lady Gu is confused and asks what he's talking about. Kwang becomes even more frustrated and tells her that she has left him with no other choice. He remembers that he needs to find a 14-year-old girl whose surname starts with Gu, and she should be somewhere around here. Lady Gu is shocked. She asks Kwang how he could possibly know all of this. Realizing that she can't hide it anymore, she agrees to help him find the hidden class pass. Kwang simply tells her to get started immediately. The girl suddenly starts performing a strange dance, and a mana circle appears beneath Kwang. She explains this is the hidden class trial. The faster he clears the trial, the sooner he'll receive a hidden class. Kwang thinks it doesn't sound too bad and thanks her, but she warns him not to celebrate too quickly. A notification suddenly appears on his screen, and Kwang is shocked by the difficulty. The trial is far harder than he expected, and he only has one chance. He protests that he's still a beginner and should be given a normal beginner-level trial. This one is so difficult that he'll probably die. Kwang tries to move his legs, only to realize that the magic seal has completely restrained him. He can't move at all. Then the woman suddenly becomes furious and accuses him of keeping his eyes on her daughter. She declares that this will be his end. Another notification appears showing that Lady Gu's favorability has dropped sharply. Kwang is stunned. He had been counting on increasing her favorability to help him complete the trial, but it's dropping instead. Lady Gu coldly tells him that whether he passes or fails depends entirely on his own skills. Kwang refuses to be underestimated and says that once he gets out of here, the first thing he'll do is find her daughter. The scene then shifts to the trial area. Kwang arrives through a portal and finds himself surrounded by sand. A notification announces that his trial has officially begun. This is the Shadow Hunter trial, and the difficulty is extremely high. Kwang realizes he has only two choices. Either he dies here or he clears the trial. Suddenly, something begins emerging from beneath the sand. Then, several of them rise around him, completely surrounding him. Kwang wonders if these are the enemies of the trial and soon discovers the truth. They are giant sandworms. Kwang immediately activates his weakness detection skill and identifies the worm's weakness, their mouths. He draws his bow and realizes that the monster isn't particularly high level, but its skin is extremely thick. Killing it won't be easy. Kwang fires an arrow. The attack deals 130 damage to the giant sandworm. After landing, Kwang feels confident that he can defeat it, but the injured worm becomes enraged and charges straight towards him. Kwang mocks it for coming so directly at him, but the giant sandworm suddenly dives beneath the sand. A massive impact follows, creating a huge crater where Kwang was standing. Kwang realizes how dangerous this enemy is. If he had been hit directly, he would have been killed. The worm can disappear underground and attack from anywhere. Kwang can't track it at all. He knows he needs to find a location where the monster can't easily attack him. Looking around, he searches for some kind of rocky area. Then he spots a large pillar. Kwang immediately gets excited. He has found the perfect place to fight. He starts moving towards the pillar, but just before he reaches it, the giant sandworm suddenly erupts from the ground. Kwang dodges its attack and realizes that the monster is back for another round. He fires 2 arrows simultaneously, and both attacks land, causing the giant sandworm's HP to drop significantly.
Kwang calls the creature disgusting and decides to maintain some distance so he can fight it safely, but the worm launches another sand attack. The attack severely damages Kwang and reduces his vision by 50%. His attack accuracy also drops, leaving everything around him blurred. Kwang realizes he has to reach the stone pillar as quickly as possible, but the giant sandworm is already attacking from behind. It gets dangerously close, forcing Kwang to desperately run backward, hoping he can reach the pillar before the monster catches him.
Kwang finally reaches the stone pillar and realizes his guess was correct. The giant sandworm has gone underground again. It keeps disappearing beneath the sand and then emerging somewhere else, making the fight extremely difficult. Kwang knows the monster itself isn't very strong, but the gap between their abilities is still causing problems. Even though he knows its weakness, he can't finish it off because the worm keeps repeating the same attack pattern. Once Kwang observes the pattern carefully, he realizes that the monster's movements are completely predictable. Now that he can read its attacks, it's time for him to counter. He calls out, challenging the worm to come back out because its end is near. The ground suddenly begins shaking, and the giant sandworm bursts out of the sand exactly where Kwang expected. It immediately launches another sand attack, but Kwang dodges and fires an arrow at it, reducing its HP by 260. After landing, Kwang notices something strange. The worm doesn't attack again. He realizes it may only have 2 attack patterns. If that's really the case, the fight is practically over. Kwang leaps back into action and continues attacking the giant sandworm. Its HP keeps dropping until Kwang prepares one final arrow. He declares that this attack will finish the fight, and fires. The arrow hits, and the giant sandworm finally dies. The system confirms that the sandworm has been defeated, awarding Kwang a large amount of EXP and other rewards. His level also increases. But when Kwang checks the loot, he's completely disappointed. He looks at the dead boss and complains that such a powerful boss gave him nothing but useless items. Then, Kwang notices something unusual about the stone pillar. It has 8 words engraved on it, but only one of them is glowing. He suddenly realizes what this means. Before he can investigate further, several more sandworms emerge and attack him at once. Kwang understands that these monsters are part of the trial. To clear this level, he'll have to defeat all of them. He climbs onto the stone pillar and realizes that this is actually the perfect place to fight. If he stays on the ground, the sandworms can attack him from anywhere beneath the sand, but from the pillar, he is a much safer position. Kwang also notices that the worm's attacks are extremely predictable. They can't see him directly and seem to locate him through vibrations. Then, Kwang gets an idea. What if he creates the vibrations himself? He has plenty of coins, but copper coins won't be heavy enough. He needs silver coins because they're much heavier and can create stronger vibrations. Kwang opens his inventory and uses Evolve Everything to convert all of his copper coins into silver coins. He then throws the silver coins across the battlefield. The sandworms immediately move toward the vibrations. Kwang waits for the perfect moment and launches an attack. One of his attacks hits one of the sandworms, but only deals 35 damage. Kwang is surprised. His position was completely safe and the attack landed perfectly, yet the monster only lost 35 HP. He realizes he'll need even more coins. So he keeps throwing silver coins and using the vibrations to control the sandworm's movements. 4 hours later, Kwang finally finishes killing them all. Exhausted, he sits down and proudly says that he actually managed to clear it. The system panel reveals that his level has now reached level 10, along with a huge number of accumulated points. Kwang is thrilled. He's finally reached level 10. He opens his attributes and carefully examines his stats. Then he notices something strange. His luck is at 0. Kwang realizes that having 0 luck means he'll likely keep receiving terrible quality items, so he decides to transfer all of his available points into luck. His luck immediately increases, and his hit rate and evasion also improve. Kwang realizes that these attributes are connected to luck as well. Then another skill activates. Kwang is surprised at how useful luck actually is. At that moment, his skill launches an attack toward one of the sandworms. A strange purple glow suddenly appears. Kwang looks at it in confusion and wonders what that purple glow could be. Then he jumps down from the pillar and realizes that it might be a legendary item. He immediately rushes toward it, determined to collect it before anything happens to it. Kwang picks up the glowing item to see what he has received. It's Sand Skip, a legendary skill. He can't believe it and wonders if the game is actually joking with him. The skill allows him to use the Sandworm's ability, which initially seems almost useless, but Kwang realizes it could be extremely useful for escaping danger or launching surprise attacks. He immediately learns the skill, spending 10 silver coins in the process. Now that he's reached level 10, Kwang checks his inventory and realizes he can finally use several of the rewards he obtained earlier. He learns the 7-star arrow skill and equips the silver-level armor. The armor gives him a massive boost, making Kwang believe he could become the strongest player on the entire server. Then he looks back at the giant pillar. All 8 words on the pillar have now burned away, and every monster in the area has been defeated. He has also collected all the drops, yet nothing seems to be happening. Suddenly, the ground begins shaking. Kwang wonders if an earthquake is happening, but then he notices a strange light coming from beneath the giant pillar. He approaches it and discovers an underground passage. Kwang realizes that his real reward must be hidden below. The timing couldn't be better. He has just obtained new skills and equipped powerful equipment, so now he can properly test his upgraded strength. Just then, a voice calls out from behind him. "Big brother." It's his sister, Ji Tong. She tells him that it's time to eat and that she's prepared his favorite pickled eggs. Kwang asks her if she's climbed onto the gaming pod and tells her to get down before she gets hurt. A system notification appears, informing Kwang that someone is calling him from outside and asking whether he wants to exit the game. Kwang immediately refuses. If he leaves now, he'll lose his chance to obtain the hidden profession. He has to finish the trial first. He tells his sister to wait and says he'll eat later because he's still playing. His sister reminds him that he's already been gaming for 8 hours and that he's still recovering from his condition. She tells him he should rest for a while. Kwang tells her not to bother her big brother. Upset, she leaves the food beside him and walks away. Kwang feels guilty and apologizes to himself, but he knows that until he becomes strong enough, he can't afford to leave the game. He looks toward the light and declares that he's coming for the Phantom Hunter. Kwang walks over and places his hand against the glowing surface. In an instant, he's teleported to another location. As soon as he arrives, a system warning appears, informing him that this area is extremely dangerous and that he needs to stay alert. Kwang realizes that this must be the real boss room. He cautiously looks ahead and suddenly freezes. The boss is a giant crab. Kwang can't believe it. This enormous creature is a gold-level boss. He immediately activates weakness detection, but the result shocks him. The giant crab has no weakness. Before Kwang can figure out how to deal with it, the crab attacks. Kwang quickly retreats. The creature is enormous, which makes its movement relatively slow, but the shockwave from its attack still causes massive damage. Kwang realizes how dangerous the attack is. Thankfully, he had purchased a 300-point shield earlier. If the crab's attack hits him directly, the pain will feel just like being struck by a truck. He has to avoid it at all costs. The crab's attack smashes into the ground, leaving behind a gigantic crater. Kwang realizes that this is the power of a gold-level boss. Simply dodging won't be enough. He needs another strategy. He launches a powerful attack at the crab, but the result is shocking. It deals only 1 damage. Kwang is stunned. The crab's defense is unbelievably high. The giant crab attacks again, but Kwang manages to dodge. He realizes that simply dodging won't get him anywhere. He has to take advantage of his superior speed, otherwise the shockwaves will eventually catch up. The crab attacks again. Kwang watches the incoming strike and realizes he's in trouble. The attack connects, creating another enormous crater. Kwang disappears completely from sight. But then the scene reveals what happened. Kwang is actually clinging to the crab's arm. The moment the crab notices him, it violently shakes his arm, sending Kwang flying a huge distance away.
Kwang gets furious and tells the crab that it's really starting to annoy him. He launches his 7-star linked arrow, and this time the attack deals massive damage to the boss. After landing, Kwang praises the technique. The most important part is that the healthier the target is, the more damage the 7-star linked arrow can inflict. But the giant crab immediately attacks again. Kwang activates his shield, but the crab's attack completely deactivates it. Kwang realizes that things are getting dangerous and thinks he might actually be finished. He jumps under the crab and prepares to use his 7-star arrows, but then notices that his HP is dropped dramatically. Worse, he's completely out of mana. He still needs another 4 minutes before he can use the 7-star arrow again. Suddenly, the crab leaps into the air. Kwang realizes that it may be trying to smash him against the ceiling. He immediately jumps down and avoids the attack. The crab crashes into the ceiling with tremendous force. Then, Kwang's weakness detection activates. He's shocked. The crab suddenly has a weakness. Kwang discovers that its weakness is its abdomen. He finally understands why he couldn't detect it earlier. The weakness had been hidden underneath the crab's body. Once the crab jumped, its abdomen was exposed, allowing the skill to identify it. Before Kwang can take advantage of this discovery, the crab activates another skill. A massive sandstorm surrounds Kwang. He immediately realizes how terrifying this ability is. The damage is so intense that he can't simply endure it, but escaping is also nearly impossible. If he takes the full damage, all 6,000 HP will be drained. His HP begins dropping rapidly inside the storm. Even so, Kwang refuses to stay passive. While trapped inside the storm, he launches an attack at the crab, dealing significant damage. He taunts the crab, asking if it's enjoying itself while standing there. The sandstorm suddenly becomes even stronger. For a moment, nothing can be seen through the storm. Then, something emerges from underground. Kwang bursts out from beneath the ground and fires an arrow directly at the crab, catching it by surprise. The arrow strikes its eye. The crab activates another defensive skill, but Kwang is no longer afraid of it. Instead, he activates Sand Escape and dives underground. Kwang realizes that this legendary skill is actually extremely useful. While underground, he can avoid the crab's attacks and then emerge suddenly to deal damage. The crab attacks again, but Kwang rapidly moves away underground. The attack leaves enormous cracks across the ground. Kwang is amazed by Sand Escape. It barely consumes any mana, making it an incredibly powerful legendary skill. He emerges from beneath the ground and attacks the crab again, but the attack only deals 1 damage. Kwang realizes that his attack can't actually hurt the crab much. Still, he notices that it is enough to annoy the boss and keep its attention on him. Then, unexpectedly, the crab speaks. "You bastard." Kwang freezes in shock. The boss can actually talk. 3 hours later, the battle is still going on. Kwang's HP is dropped to just 720, and he realizes that this has become an incredibly long and difficult fight. He checks his mana and notices that it's finally starting to recover. Kwang smiles. He realizes that the battle is about to reach its end.
Kwang finally tells the crab that it has made him wait long enough and that this is the end. But the giant crab suddenly admits defeat. It begs Kwang to finish it quickly because the battle has caused it too much pain and it can't take any more. Kwang accepts, saying he has no other choice because the crab's defense is simply too strong. He activates 7-star arrow and launches the attack. The powerful strike completely drains the crab's mana, and the boss finally dies. A notification immediately appears, announcing that Kwang's level has increased to 13. He realizes that reaching level 13 in just 1 day makes him the first player to achieve such a feat. Then another notification appears. You have qualified to change your hidden class. Would you like to become a Phantom Hunter? Kwang immediately accepts. This is exactly what he has been working toward. A powerful evolution begins, and Kwang successfully changes into the Phantom Hunter class. His new attributes are displayed, revealing that every time he levels up, the Phantom Hunter gains between 5 and 7 additional attributes for each skill. Kwang is amazed by the class's potential. The more he levels up, the stronger he'll become. He also receives several new skills. At first, they look fairly average, but Kwang quickly realizes that they're actually growth-type skills. As his power increases, these skills will continue becoming stronger.
While examining his new abilities, Guang wonders how the Phantom Hunter itself will evolve. Then, his passive evolution activates. Guang realizes that investing his points into luck was one of the best decisions he could have made. After defeating the giant crab, he also received a huge amount of gold and silver coins. Looking at his growing wealth, Guang decides that he will become the first player to collect 1 billion coins and see what kind of reward he receives for reaching that milestone. He stores all the newly obtained items in his inventory. Later, Guang checks his equipment and is impressed by how powerful everything is. Many of the items have extremely high defense, meaning he can survive against powerful monsters much more easily. He equips a new piece of armor and immediately gains a large number of additional attributes. Then he notices a silver-level golden greatsword. Guang thinks the sword looks incredibly cool, but as an archer, he has no intention of using it. Selling it would be a waste, so he decides to keep it. Maybe he'll give it to someone else later. After equipping his armor, Guang decides to put all his available attribute points into agility. His attributes rise dramatically, making his speed even more impressive. But just as he's getting ready to continue playing, another notification appears. You have played the game for more than 15 hours. You will now be forcibly logged out. Guang protests, saying he can still keep playing, but the system ignores him and forces him out. The moment he returns to reality, Guang complains that he still wants to play. After calming down, he wonders how an adult can possibly have an anti-addiction system like this. Still, everything is going perfectly. If things continue this way, Guang is confident that eventually he'll take revenge on Taki and everyone else who betrayed him. He returns to his hospital room and notices his sister sleeping beside the bed. Guang realizes that she actually came all the way to the hospital to look after him. Then he notices the food she prepared and immediately comments on how good it smells. He feels touched, realizing that his little sister has grown up well and now is taking care of him despite everything she's been through. Guang promises himself that once his revenge is complete, he'll give her a much better life. He takes a bite of the food. His expression immediately changes. The food tastes terrible. Guang is horrified by how much salt she has put in it and starts complaining under his breath. His sister suddenly wakes up and asks him if he's finished playing the game. Guang quickly reassures her that everything is fine and asks her if he accidentally woke her. She gets up and asks him how he likes the food. Guang forces a smile and tells her that it's delicious. His sister happily tells him to finish everything because he must be very hungry.
Guang refuses to eat, but his sister becomes so angry that he has no choice but to finish the meal. The next day, Guang is in terrible condition. A nurse comes over and asks how he's feeling. She sits beside him and reminds him that he was vomiting badly and had diarrhea the previous day. She was extremely worried about him. However, the nurse secretly has other thoughts. She finds Guang handsome despite his disability and starts imagining that staying by his side could let her live a luxurious life. Guang simply explains that his vomiting was probably because he played the game for too long the previous day. The nurse tells him that if he needs anything, he can ask her and she'll do whatever he wants. Guang immediately takes her up on the offer and asks her to take his wheelchair to the gaming pod because he wants to play. The nurse is shocked. She realizes that Guang really is addicted to the game. Still, she takes him to the gaming pod while secretly wondering if her appearance wasn't good enough and deciding she'll try again tonight. Guang gets inside the gaming pod and tells the system to start. He immediately appears in the game's lobby and looks around. The system reveals that there are already 300,000 online players. Guang realizes that Divine Path is becoming extremely popular. However, he believes most of the current players are using cheap VR devices. He predicts that within a month, the game will have more than 100 million players. Then he orders the system to bring up his equipment panel. Looking through his current equipment, Guang realizes that he'll need better gear if he wants to fight a level 20 boss. He enters a shop where the shopkeeper greets him as a customer.
Kwang notices the shopkeeper's silver armor and immediately becomes interested. He asks what the man has available. Looking at the displayed items, Kwang quickly realizes that they're all bronze-level equipment. To him, they're basically garbage. He suspects that the shopkeeper must be hiding better gold-level items somewhere. Kwang turns towards him and asks for the most expensive item in the store. The shopkeeper is surprised by the request and explains that everything he has is already on display. If Kwang likes anything, he can even offer him a discount. He claims that he doesn't have truly expensive items and jokes that Kwang probably wouldn't be able to afford them. Kwang takes out a crystal coin and asks if this will be enough. The shopkeeper immediately changes his attitude. He realizes that he completely underestimated Kwang. He casts a spell and announces, "Secret door unlocked." A hidden room opens, revealing a collection of extremely expensive equipment. The shopkeeper explains that these items were supposed to be sold after the server had been opened for 30 days, but since Kwang has arrived early, he's willing to let him choose one. Kwang looks through the collection and is disappointed. Even these items are mostly silver-level equipment. Then one item catches his eye, a golden mask. Kwang points towards it and says he wants that mask. The shopkeeper is impressed by his judgment. He explains that this is the only golden mask in the entire game, or rather on the entire server since its launch. It was supposed to be sold for 200,000 coins after 1 month, but since Kwang gave him a crystal coin, the shopkeeper offers him a discounted price of 150,000 coins. Kwang simply says 200,000. He transfers 200,000 coins to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper assumes that Kwang must be some rich player who doesn't understand the value of money. He thinks that even 150,000 coins would take an ordinary player years to earn. Then he checks his panel. He's stunned. Kwang really did send him the full 200,000 coins. Before leaving, Kwang tells him to keep the discount and simply inform him whenever an important item becomes available. The shopkeeper happily agrees and recognizes Kwang as a VIP customer. As Kwang walks away, he thinks about the amount he just spent. 200,000 coins is equivalent to $2 million in real-world cash.
Kwang wonders if spending so much on a gold-level equipment was really worth it. He puts on the golden mask and starts modifying it. Once he examines its abilities, he realizes that it is exactly what he expected, a genuine gold-grade item with abilities far ahead of the current stage of the game. As Kwang walks away, several players notice his mask. One of them comments that it doesn't look particularly special, but another player immediately points out that it's a gold-grade item. Everyone becomes shocked. The game has just launched, yet someone already possesses gold-grade equipment. They assume Kwang must have cheated or used some kind of exploit. Suddenly, a player grabs Kwang from behind and tells him to stop. Kwang angrily turns around and asks what he wants. The player compliments Kwang's gear and suggests that Kwang lend it to their group. Kwang asks why he would do that. The man claims that high-level equipment isn't even supposed to be available on the server yet, so Kwang must have cheated. He threatens to report him and says that if Kwang doesn't want to get banned, he should hand over the gold gear. Kwang immediately realizes that they're trying to scam him. Other players gather around to watch the confrontation. Some assume the gold gear player really did cheat and predict that he's about to get beaten. Within moments, a huge crowd forms. Everyone wants to see whether Kwang actually cheated. A golden-haired player steps forward and asks the crowd whether they should teach Kwang what happens to people who cheat. The crowd starts cheering, then tells Kwang to hand over his item. If he refuses, they'll kill him and force him to restart from the beginning. According to them, giving up the gold gear is the better option. Kwang looks at the crowd and thinks that foolish people like these exist everywhere, people who blindly believe whatever they're told, while others take advantage of them. He activates his weakness skill and checks the players surrounding him. Their levels are only around 4 or 5. Kwang realizes that they're no threat at all.
Instead of backing down, he tells all 3 attackers to come at him together. The 3 players become furious. One boasts that he'll finish Kwong with a single attack, while another mocks him for being too arrogant. Kwong activates Tiger Strike. In an instant, all 3 players are defeated. The surrounding crowd is stunned. Nobody even saw what happened. Kwong walks up to the player who threatened him and calmly warns him that if they keep killing him, he'll just keep coming back and killing them again. He tells them to remember his name, Morning Wine, Evening Sun. He adds that they're always welcome to come after him again. One of the players suddenly recognizes the name. He remembers seeing it many times before. Someone asks where. The answer comes from the leaderboard rankings. Kwong is currently ranked number 1. Everyone is shocked. The player who had just been defeated curses Kwong after realizing that this person is actually the top-ranked player on the entire leaderboard. Kwong simply walks away. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to another location. Kwong arrives somewhere and thinks that before he starts fighting monsters, there's something else he needs to take care of first. Just then, a girl notices him.
Kwong finally finds the girl he was looking for and calls out to her. He asks her something, but she immediately objects to being called a little girl, pointing out that Kwong isn't even much older than her. Kwong realizes that her attitude matches exactly what he remembers. He asks if she's Lady Guan's daughter and confirms her name. The girl is shocked that he knows who he is and asks what he wants. Kwong then jokingly tells her that her mother promised he would marry her in 5 years. The girl is horrified and immediately runs to her mother, saying that she absolutely refuses to marry him. Kwong can't help but laugh at her reaction. Lady Guan comes out and asks what's going on. Her daughter repeats that she doesn't want to marry Kwong. Kwong greets Lady Guan and asks if she remembers their previous conversation. He reminds her that he promised to find her daughter after completing the trial. Lady Guan asks what he wants and warns him not to cause trouble, or she'll leave immediately. Kwong tells her to relax. He only wants an intermediate dungeon map. Lady Guan says she doesn't have one. Kwong pretends to prepare a punch, making both of them nervous, but instead he pulls out a stone and thanks Lady Guan for helping him obtain the hidden class trial. He tells her to keep it. Lady Guan and her daughter are pleasantly surprised. Her daughter immediately takes the stone and starts admiring it, calling it beautiful. Lady Guan tells her to give it back because they don't need it, but the girl refuses. As Kwong prepares to leave, the girl suddenly asks whether he really meant what he said about marrying her. She even wonders if the stone is an engagement token. Kwong realizes that his joke was taken completely seriously. He awkwardly confirms it, but adds that her mother must first give him the intermediate dungeon map. Lady Guan finally agrees. According to the rules, the map can be given to certain players, but she reveals a secret. The village chief has permission from the game system to give an intermediate dungeon map to players who are willing to take on difficult challenges. The girl offers to take Kwong to the village chief's house. Soon, they arrive at the chief's residence. The chief is relaxing in the sunlight when the girl announces that someone has come to see her. Kwong gets straight to the point. He wants the intermediate dungeon map because he's ready to leave the beginner-level village. The village chief is surprised by how quickly he's trying to move forward. Kwong is only level 13, yet he intends to fight a level 19 boss. She warns him that the challenge will be extremely difficult. Kwong pulls out a stone and asks if that will change her mind. The village chief immediately suspects that he's trying to bribe her. She proudly explains that she's the village chief because she's an extremely honest person and claims she's only saying this for Kwong's own safety. Even while saying this, she reaches for the stone. The girl innocently points out that if the village chief is really so honest, she should simply give the stone back to Kwong. She grabs it and throws it back toward him. Kwong thinks the girl isn't causing as much trouble as he expected. After a while, the village chief finally agrees and tells him to follow her. She takes Kwong to a certain area and explains that the village is attacked by wolves every year. Brave warriors, whom they call players, have always helped defend them, but none of them have ever solved the problem completely. The reason is the White Wolf King. It's incredibly powerful and usually hides inside its cave. The village chief offers Kwong a deal. If he brings back the Wolf King's skin, she'll give him the intermediate dungeon map. A system notification immediately appears, assigning Kwong a hard difficulty task. Kwong accepts it and tells the village chief to have the map ready because he'll be back soon. But as he turns to leave, the girl grabs his hand and insists on coming with him. She wants to protect Kwong and help defend her village. Kwong tells her to stay behind and go back to her mother, but she refuses. She wants to defeat the White Wolf King herself and protect her village. Kwong turns to the village chief and complains that she can't even control her own daughter. Then another system notification appears. You must complete the mission with this girl, and you must also protect her. Kwong has no choice but to agree. The girl becomes extremely happy and joins him. The scene then shifts to a forest. Kwong looks around and says that judging from the mission clues, this should be the right place. The girl finds the forest frightening. Suddenly, they hear a loud scream from somewhere nearby. Kwong heads towards the sound, thinking they can ask whoever is there for directions. The girl nervously asks if they really should go there. When they arrive, they find a player fighting a wolf with his sword. Kwong asks him where the wolves live, but the player isn't alone. He's surrounded by his teammates, and they immediately become hostile. They ask Kwong why he needs to know and tell him that this entire area already belongs to them. If Kwong wants to level up here, he'll have to pay them. Otherwise, he can return to the beginner village and keep killing chickens. Then they question Kwong for bringing the little girl with him, pointing out that she's not even a player and is only an NPC who gives tasks. Kwong tells them to mind their own business and criticizes their method of leveling up, calling it terrible. One of the guild members argues that the wolves are low-level monsters, making them relatively safe to farm. That's why this is the best method for them. Suddenly, the girl notices something approaching. She points out that something is coming from the distance. A huge wolf-shaped shadow appears behind the guild members. Kwong immediately senses something is wrong and starts moving away. The guild members casually tell Kwong and the girl to leave if they don't have money to pay them for leveling here. But Kwong looks at them in disbelief. These idiots haven't even noticed the overwhelming killing intent behind them. Standing directly behind the guild members is the terrifying White Wolf King. Suddenly, something falls onto one of the girls' heads. She looks at it and turns around, only to come face to face with the terrifying White Wolf King. She freezes in fear. The Wolf King lets out a powerful roar and immediately devours her. Seeing this, the remaining guild members panic and start running for their lives. The White Wolf King roars again and suddenly disappears. One of the players thinks the Wolf King has vanished, but the monster is actually right behind him. It instantly kills him. The Wolf King then raises his hand and launches another devastating attack. Kwong immediately activates weakness detection and searches for the boss's weakness. He discovers that the area around its eyes is extremely vulnerable. If he can attack that spot, his chances of defeating the Wolf King will increase significantly. Kwong is impressed by the Wolf King's abilities. It can disappear and reappear almost instantly, making it incredibly difficult to track. He draws his bow and prepares to test what other skills the Wolf King has, but the girl suddenly stops him. Kwong asks what she's doing and tells her to move her hand. She firmly tells him that he can't fight it. The Wolf King has already noticed that someone else is nearby and starts looking in their direction. Kwong immediately becomes nervous and begins backing away. The girl explains that the Wolf King came because those 5 players had killed too many wolves. It came specifically to hunt them down. If Kwong had attacked it too, the Wolf King would have targeted him as well. His current level isn't high enough to defeat such a powerful boss. They need to prepare properly first. Kwong realizes that this may be a hint from the game.
Perhaps he needs to level up and become stronger before returning to fight the Wolf King. He agrees to leave for now, but then wonders how they'll find the Wolf King again. The girl tells him to not worry. She has an auto-pathfinding map. Kwang is surprised and asks why she didn't show him the map earlier. She simply tells him that staying with her won't be a disadvantage for him. Just then, Kwang's evolution skill becomes available again. Kwang is excited. He had been wondering how he could improve his power and level up further, and now his evolution skill is ready. He tries to evolve his bloodline again, but a system error immediately appears. You cannot evolve this skill again. Kwang realizes that he has reached the limit and thinks that perhaps he needs to evolve his phantom skill instead. He has never tried this before, so he decides to see what happens. Kwang activates the phantom skill. A water clone immediately appears beside him. The girl is amazed. Kwang examines the clone and realizes that it is essentially another version of himself created from water. He decides to test its abilities. He orders the clone to use 7-star arrow. The clone activates 7-star arrow, but Kwang quickly stops it. That's enough. His theory is correct. The hidden class's skills can also be used by the clone. Kwang suddenly gets an idea. If the clone can use his skills, then perhaps it can also use evolution. He orders the clone to activate evolution. The clone begins evolving its own bloodline. A powerful evolution starts, and the phantom itself evolves into double phantom. A system notification appears, warning that another evolution cannot be performed after this. Kwang is stunned. It actually worked. His bloodline has effectively evolved again because his phantom skill created another version of himself, allowing the clone to trigger the evolution skill. The girl is shocked and asks if this isn't basically cheating. Kwang laughs and says that if this were truly cheating, he wouldn't have been able to become this powerful. He then asks her to estimate his chances of defeating the White Wolf King now. She admits that his skills are extremely powerful, but his current chance of winning is still only 20%. Kwang isn't satisfied. He decides to increase his chances even further. He activates evolution on his 7-star arrow. The skill successfully evolved, gaining even more powerful attributes. Kwang now has another major advantage as he prepares for his eventual battle against the White Wolf King.
Kwang looks at the evolved 7-star arrow and admits that he expected it to transform into 8 arrows. Ling tells him that even in its current form, the skill is incredibly powerful, raising his chances of defeating the White Wolf King to 34%. Just then, Kwang receives a notification that his phantom cooldown has finished. He is surprised by how quickly it happened and immediately tries to activate evolution again like before. But the system informs him that evolution is still on cooldown and cannot be used. Kwang realizes what happened. If he uses evolution on his own body, the evolution of his phantom will also go on cooldown. He knows he needs to be more careful about managing it from now on. Kwang then tells the girl that they should increase their chances of winning even further. She asks where they're going, but Kwang simply tells her to follow him. Soon, they encounter a large sea creature feeding on small fish. Before it can continue eating, Kwang fires an arrow straight through its mouth. He successfully kills it and receives a large amount of crocodile meat. The girl is delighted to see how much meat they've obtained. Kwang activates his phantom and tells her to wait for 2 minutes because they'll soon have plenty of good food. 1 hour later, the girl happily says that she has never eaten fish meat this delicious before. Kwang explains that it's because the fish was a high-grade evolved creature, making its meat especially tasty. He opens his inventory and stores all the remaining meat. Then, Kwang reflects on his current strength. With 3 phantoms, he has an incredible advantage, especially because they also possess recovery items. Now he believes he's finally ready to fight the White Wolf King. He asks Ling about his chances of winning. She says they're now at 40%. Kwang decides that it's time to fight the Wolf King, but Ling insists on coming with him. Unbeknownst to them, someone is following them. The scene shifts to the entrance of the White Wolf King's cave. Kwang recognizes the location and thanks Ling for bringing him there.
He immediately activates his phantom skill and then activates Dead Trap. Kwang calculates that his phantom lasts for 60 seconds, while Dead Trap has a 30-second cooldown. That means each phantom can place 2 traps during its duration. With multiple phantoms, Kwang can therefore set up 4 traps at once. He continues placing traps until the entire area around the cave entrance is filled with them. Ling is surprised by how many traps he's prepared and wonders if this is getting excessive. Despite all the preparation, however, their chance of winning hasn't increased much. Kwang eats some meat and explains that the White Wolf King is extremely fast. They need to make as much noise as possible to prevent it from escaping. Ling realizes that their victory chance still hasn't reached 50%. Kwang tells her to leave everything to him. He orders her to hide behind a tree. With all the traps he has placed, the Wolf King shouldn't be able to reach her easily. Ling agrees and moves away. Kwang then starts shouting towards the cave. "White Wolf King, come out! Today, you'll die by my hands!" The Wolf King hears him and lets out a powerful growl. Kwang thinks that the moment it comes out, it'll step straight into his traps. The White Wolf King finally emerges from the cave, but after hearing something, it suddenly backs away. Kwang is surprised. The Wolf King is far more cautious than he expected. Kwang continues provoking it, calling the mighty Wolf King a coward and challenging it to come out and fight. Meanwhile, Ling is watching from her hiding place. She wants to see just how capable Kwang really is, and even thinks that if his abilities are impressive enough, she might consider marrying him in the future. Suddenly, a hand reaches out from behind her and grabs her. At the same moment, Kwang receives a system notification. A trap has been triggered. Someone has been caught in a trap. Kwang looks towards the cave entrance. None of the traps there have been activated, and the Wolf King hasn't touched any of them. He immediately realized what happened. Kwang turns around and discovers that Ling has been caught in a trap.
Ling struggles and tells the man holding her to let her go. The man complains that the girl is extremely wild, while another member, who's caught in a trap, begs their boss to help him escape. Kwang orders them to release Ling. Ling angrily reminds them that she's still a minor and asks how they dared kidnap her. She threatens to call her husband and have him beat them up. The boss is confused by the word husband and asks how old she is. Kwang immediately suspects that Ling is talking about him. Ling looks toward Kwang and cries out, calling him her husband and begging him to save her from these old men. Kwang is stunned by what she's doing, while the others start laughing at the situation. Their boss steps forward and reminds Kwang that this territory belongs to them. Kwang calmly says he already knows. It's the territory of the Green Snake Gang. The boss is surprised that Kwang knows this, but demands to know why he dared to come onto their territory to level up. He then mentions that his brothers were killed the previous day and asks whether Kwang had anything to do with them. Kwang says their deaths have nothing to do with him. If the boss doesn't believe him, he can ask those men himself after they respawn. The boss says he believes Kwang, because someone as cowardly as him couldn't possibly have killed his brothers. There were 5 of them. He then demands to know Kwang's real purpose for coming here. Kwang realizes that he needs to keep his strength hidden while Ling is still in their hands. He casually claims that he was simply passing through, but another member immediately calls him out, saying that he's obviously lying. There must be a hidden boss somewhere in this area, and whoever finds it should receive its rewards. Kwang wonders where these idiots came from. They clearly don't understand the situation and seem determined to provoke him. Instead, Kwang points toward the cave and proposes a deal. They can release the girl. In exchange, they can have the hidden boss. Kwang secretly thinks that these people won't last long against the hidden boss. Once they're weakened, he'll deal with the White Wolf King himself and collect all the rewards. The boss laughs at Kwang's attempt to negotiate and asks whether he even knows who he's talking to. Kwang calmly asks for his name. A girl nearby answers that his name is Young Che, and he's the 3rd Young Master. Kwang recognizes the name. Young Che belongs to the Young Group. Kwang remembers that his own company group holds around 40% of their company's shares, and Young Che's father has always treated him respectfully. Kwang acknowledges that he's heard of him, but asks what that has to do with the current situation. Young Che demands that Kwang hand over all his money and valuable items as punishment for trespassing on their territory. Kwang warns him not to make the situation worse. They've seriously underestimated him. He prepares to attack, but suddenly a powerful growl echoes from behind them. Everyone turns around. One of the guild members spots the hidden boss and immediately warns their boss. Kwang thinks that he already tried to warn these idiots. Young Che, however, becomes excited. He declares that they're the elite members of the Green Snake Gang, and he'll personally lead the attack. The entire group rushes toward the cave. One of them tells Kwang to keep his bride safe because they'll deal with him later. Kwang watches them in disbelief. He can't understand how these people reached this point without even thinking about how to defeat the hidden boss. They don't know its abilities, its attack patterns, or anything else. They simply heard that a boss was here and charged straight toward it. Kwang realizes they'll lose easily. If they get caught in the traps, that's their own fault. Sure enough, the guild members begin triggering Kwang's traps one after another. One of them cries out, asking what the traps are and who placed them. Then the White Wolf King appears. It lets out a terrifying roar that shakes the entire area. The guild members panic. One of them activates his weakness reduction skill and realizes that they're facing a level 20 creature. He desperately asks the boss what to do. Young Che tells everyone not to panic. He's still here. He confidently reminds himself that he possesses a hidden warrior talent and a powerful joint item, something he spent a huge amount of money acquiring. He believes those preparations will be enough to deal with the White Wolf King.
Young Che refuses to believe he can lose now. He activates his skill and transforms into a massive, powerful form, becoming far stronger than before. Kwang immediately activates weakness detection and studies him. Even Kwang is impressed by the skill, realizing that he never expected the game to have abilities like this. Ling asks whether Kwang isn't supposed to complete the mission, but Kwang tells her there's no need to rush. He wants to let these fools get themselves eliminated first. One of the guild members is thrilled by Yang Che's transformation and praises the third young master. Yang Che proudly declares that he has become enormous and that his talent has also dramatically increased. With several healers supporting him from behind, he believes he can easily defeat the Wolf King. But before he can do anything, the White Wolf King strikes. Its claw pierces straight through Yang Che, dealing 800 damage in only 0.7 seconds. Everyone is stunned. Yang Che's HP drops all the way to 80. The Wolf King then throws him aside with a single attack. Seeing their boss in such terrible condition, the guild members immediately panic and start running. Kwang watches them flee and thinks they're nothing more than a group of insects that only know how to fight in numbers. The Wolf King lets out another powerful roar, and the other wolves begin chasing the fleeing guild members. One player screams that the wolves are after them and tells everyone to run faster. Another player protests that these are only level 2 wolves and that they should go back and save their boss. But another member angrily asks if she's crazy. Their boss was practically defeated in a single attack. How could they possibly fight this many wolves? They decide to save themselves first. One of them even looks back and apologizes to Yang Che, saying that he can't save him. Then he notices Kwang approaching the Wolf King. He wonders if Kwang has lost his mind. Why would anyone walk directly toward that boss instead of running away? Kwang reaches the White Wolf King and calmly praises it. He admits that the Wolf King is much smarter than he expected. It used Kwang's own traps against the people who had been killing its wolves and took revenge on all of them. But now the Wolf King is Kwang's opponent, and Kwang intends to defeat it himself. Yang Che, still barely alive, watches Kwang and thinks he's incredibly arrogant. Instead of running away, Kwang is actually choosing to fight the boss face to face. The White Wolf King stares at Kwang. Suddenly, several wolves rush toward him at once. Kwang mocks them, saying that they're wolves and should know exactly what he is. He's the tiger here. He tells them to stay in their place. Kwang activates one of his skills, forcing the attacking wolves backward. The Wolf King is slightly surprised by the display. Kwang immediately launches an attack at the boss. The White Wolf King barely manages to dodge it. Kwang realizes that its speed is even greater than he expected. Even his accuracy is struggling to keep up with it. He knows he needs to land at least one solid hit somehow. The Wolf King suddenly attacks with its claws. Blood sprays everywhere as its claws pierce straight through Kwang. His HP drops by 500. The Wolf King appears to laugh at him. Kwang simply asks whether it enjoys laughing so much. He explains that he deliberately didn't dodge the attack. The Wolf King may think Kwang was unable to avoid it, but that's not the reason. Kwang allowed himself to be hit because he wanted to create the perfect opportunity to attack. Two phantom clones suddenly appear behind the Wolf King. Both launch 7-star arrows. The Wolf King notices the attack and throws Kwang backward while desperately trying to evade the barrage. Most of the arrows miss, but several still strike the Wolf King. Its HP drops to 1220. Kwang gets back on his feet and reveals that he has prepared traps throughout the area. These surroundings are also filled with illusions. He warns the Wolf King not even to think about escaping. If it tries to run, it will simply fall into one of his traps. Kwang then eats some meat, allowing his recovery to begin restoring his HP. The battle between Kwang and the White Wolf King is only getting started.
The White Wolf King lets out a powerful roar and suddenly disappears. Kwang realizes that its invisibility skill is extremely dangerous. A moment later, the Wolf King appears behind him and lands a heavy attack, reducing Kwang's HP by 200. Kwang remembers that this was the same skill the Wolf King used to eliminate the guild members. While Kwang is still in the air, the Wolf King disappears again and launches another attack. It continues striking him repeatedly, giving him no chance to recover. By the end of the assault, Kwang's HP has dropped to around 1670, nearly half of his total HP. Kwang struggles to stand and realizes that the Wolf King isn't even giving him enough time to heal. The Wolf King charges at him again with his claws, but suddenly stops. It's been caught in one of Kwang's barrier traps. Kwang laughs and explains that the Wolf King's teleportation ability is impressive, but it's mainly effective in close combat. If Kwang keeps attacking from a distance, the Wolf King won't be able to dodge everything, and now it has triggered one of his traps. Kwang immediately fires an arrow and declares that it's his turn. His attack deals a massive 1,996 damage, leaving the Wolf King with only 2,384 HP. The Wolf King roars and breaks out of the trap before attacking Kwang again. One of its claws pierces straight through him, reducing his HP by another 800. The Wolf King briefly looks surprised. Kwang reveals that he knew the Wolf King would eventually destroy the trap. That's why he deliberately didn't dodge the attack. He needed the Wolf King to focus on him. All he needs now is 3 seconds. Kwang snaps his fingers. His phantoms instantly appear behind the Wolf King. The Wolf King pulls away from Kwang, but at that exact moment, another trap activates. The Wolf King is trapped again. Kwang immediately unleashes 7-star flaming arrow and tells the Wolf King to die. His 2 phantoms also activate the same skill, creating a devastating barrage known as 21 consecutive strikes. The scene then shifts. 2 players are talking about where the wolves gather. They want to hunt them and level up quickly. One of the girls points towards a certain area. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupts in the distance, creating a huge mushroom cloud. One player is shocked and wonders if someone used a cheat. The girl assumes it must be a hack. Then she notices Kwang and excitedly tells him that it was amazing. Big Brother has won. Nearby, the White Wolf King's HP has fallen to just 75. Kwang reflects on the battle and realizes that his 9 arrows missed during the first attack. That's why the Wolf King managed to deal so much damage to him. Otherwise, the fight would have ended much earlier. He knows he needs more practice to perfect his illusions and make his attacks even more reliable. Ling urges him to finish the Wolf King quickly so that the mission can be completed.
But Kwang isn't in a hurry. He still has several things left to do. Ling suddenly becomes shocked. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to the guild boss. He's confused by how quiet everything has become. Just moments ago, there was a massive explosion, and now everything is silent. He decides to keep pretending that he's dead. Otherwise, he doesn't know what might happen. Suddenly, an arrow lands right beside him. He panics and gets up, only to see Kwang standing there. The boss is stunned that Kwang is still alive and asks whether he actually defeated the Wolf King. Kwang confirms that he did, although the Wolf King barely managed to survive. The boss immediately drops to his knees and begs Kwang for forgiveness. He admits that he was blinded by greed and failed to recognize who Kwang really was. Kwang tells him that he'll let him live. Not only will he spare him, but after the Wolf King is finally killed, he'll also allow the man to gain some of the points from the boss's defeat.